Hi, I'm Joel H. Brewster, and I'm no stranger to horror. And this is a podcast where I discuss the big and small of the genre, from terrifying indies to iconic standouts and everything in between, with the goal to take you from being a casual horror fan to a person like me as a full-on spooky film fanatic. Today, I'll be talking about the 2004 directorial debut of Zack Snyder, Dawn of the Dead, which is a remake of the 1978 film of the same name. And with me today, I am talking with Nhi Do, who starred in the 2009 Zack Snyder film Watchmen. And we're going to discuss the director we both are huge fans of, and I'm very excited to have her here. Hi, Nhi. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, everyone. I'm Nhi, and I'm super excited to be on here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you. So tell me some stuff you worked on here. I know some stuff you worked on, but I'd love to hear it in your own words.
In my own words, that's always tough. Okay, I guess like up and coming, I have a sci-fi web series that is available on YouTube. It's called Narcoleap. It's a Canadian Screen Award nominated. It's totally badass, and there's 2 seasons, so check it out. I've also done a super cool sci-fi kind of like futuristic horror called FREYA. And it's doing its festival circuit right now. And I think Joel has actually seen this.
I have. And I absolutely loved it. It's like, I'm not just saying this. It's one of my favorite short films I've ever seen before. Like it was just, it stuck with me. Like days after, it really stuck with me. And I can't wait till it's available for like everyone to see. But I'm really, every time I see that it's doing well in like the festival circuit, I jump with joy. Honestly, I do. It's so well done.
Oh, I was blown away by the script and definitely was like, I want to be a part of this. And yeah, so I can't wait. I can't wait for everyone to check that out. And I will be in an upcoming Netflix series called Made, which is based on the New York Times best-selling book by Stephanie Land of the same name.
Awesome. Yeah. So I'll just dive into it. Today we're talking about the film Dawn of the Dead. And if you haven't seen Dawn of the Dead by this point, it is on Amazon Prime, and it follows a group of survivors stuck in a shopping mall trying to survive against a zombie apocalypse that's happening right outside, but also trying to survive the personalities of the people around them. Why I chose this movie was a number of reasons. It really feels like it's Zack Snyder's month with his the Snyder Cut of Justice League coming out. And also, I really wanted to just gush about him as a director and his films with a person I know is also a fan, like me. And finally, I just really think that it's perfect time to talk about a pandemic film, like a zombie apocalypse film during the pandemic. I thought it all fit. It all just worked
out. Perfect. You know what? You're totally right. When I was watching, because I was rewatching it, and I just kept thinking, it's not too far from now.
Right.
I feel like this is, I feel closer to this film now.
Yeah, that's what I felt too. It's really interesting to look back at it with the director being obviously a mega star director, and this was his directorial debut. And then looking back at the screenwriter, James Gunn, who went on to do Guardians of the Galaxy and a bunch of other indie horror films that I liked as well, like Slither. So it's a very interesting,
love Slither.
Right? Great film. And it's like a meeting of 2 like very huge stars that's just went on to do great things from it. And the zombie film was the start of it.
Did you know he got death threats?
I did.
When they found out he was the one writing Dawn of the Dead, just because I think up until then he was only writing Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, I did hear that, and that was super interesting. I think he did. I'm probably gonna crucify for this. I think he did Stuart Little too as well. It was like a really random things that he did, and then he went on to do these like very weird, like Slither, for example, is a very weird movie, and I love that movie so much.
Yeah, I think I watched an interview, and he was just saying like, I've always been that guy. He just didn't have the chance to show it.
That reminds me a lot of, and you'll be able to speak to this, a lot about Vancouver actors. I feel like there's a lot of Vancouver actors that are maybe into horror, or filmmakers as well, but there's a lot of like made for TV, or a lot of like Hallmark movies that come to Vancouver. So you get like kind of a cross of those like personalities working on those things, which I always find interesting in Vancouver, and the talent that goes on from there.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. It's like, because there's always going to be a certain number of projects that can operate at a particular time, so you may be working on movie of the weeks in between like these like features or these more like horror styles or more like thrillers and things like that.
Absolutely. And one thing I always like, Nhi, with your career, because as you're a friend of mine, I actually get to see like a lot of your progress for like acting. I get to see like how many projects you're working on. And I feel like, and I was excited to say this to you, I feel like every time there's like a crowdfunding movie or a movie that's just won a grant, your name's attached to it in some way. Like you helped out like in some way. So I love to see your name. Like honestly, I feel like your name is like always attached to like something like great. Like, oh, that movie sounds really cool. Like it's being made in Vancouver. And then I see your name attached to it, or I see you like writing on Instagram, but I'm like, oh, cool. I knew you'd be in this.
Yes. That's like an actor's dream, to just be attached with projects that, you know, that fans like you are like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Right?
FREYA was definitely that for me.
Yeah, you want to be involved. I think that's the actor's dream. That's the goal. Like you want to work on projects that you're proud of, that you can look back like 10 years from now and be like, yeah, I did that.
Oh, absolutely. Before we dive further into the film, I do have to ask some Watchmen questions. What was it like working with Zack Snyder? Because it was a couple years after this film, but he was still, like, I think it was like 5 years after this film, but it's still like he was it was his first superhero film, which is really stand out now. Was there anything that you saw in him then that you're just like, oh yeah, this is like the guy that's going to be dominating like kind of a dark superhero world after?
You know, he's like the nicest guy ever, like super positive on set at all times. And he's so, he knows everything about the universe that you're in, inside and out.
Love to hear that. I love to hear that.
Yeah, like he's so knowledgeable about what he's doing. And yeah, and I think when he did Watchmen, he had done Dawn of the Dead and he did 300.
Right.
Those were the two major films. Yeah, and it was, I mean, this incredible world that he had created, because they had built the sets, that alternate 1980s version of New York. So they had found like an area in Burnaby that was pretty industrial and just built it from scratch.
That's awesome.
It was so cool. And I remember they had like built the bar that I was
sorry, I should just cut in here. Oh. Yeah, you should probably explain what scene you're in. I don't think anyone of us did that. And I was like, oh, you know what? This is probably the time to do it. So yeah, just explain the scene you're in. So that, yeah.
Okay, so I play the Vietnamese girl. And so my scene is when it's during a flashback scene after we find out that the comedian has passed away, and it's a funeral scene, and they flash back to his time right after the Vietnam War. And so I enter the bar because he's impregnated me and I want him to take care of my baby. And I demand he take care of me and my baby. And I give him the signature scar on his face with a glass bottle.
I love that scene, minus seeing a friend of mine get shot. I love that scene.
It was like, yay!
Oh yeah, because it's such a pivotal scene in the film that like really builds in the character, and I feel like that. Zack obviously Alan Warren as well, but Zack Snyder really did a good job of just bringing so much out of that moment, right? It really brought out a lot of the comedian, brought out a lot of what your character was going through, even though we weren't familiar with your character, as well as like a lot out of Dr. Manhattan, who was pretty stoic throughout the whole film.
Yeah, I think that was the thing. It was such a pivotal scene because it revealed the inner workings of each of these characters.
Absolutely.
I do remember Zack coming up to me being like, oh, are you ready? This is like one of the most important scenes in the whole movie.
No pressure.
I know. But I think I was so young. I was like, okay, like, let's do it. You know, like probably not understanding the full implications, but maybe in a way it protected me because I'm like, yeah, super important. Let's do it.
Well, it was such a great scene, and it's one of those things. It's one of those scenes from that movie that it's one of the standout scenes. I think that once you said, "Oh, I was the Vietnamese girl," that's it. Everyone knew exactly. Like that's listening to this. If they've seen the movie, they know exactly. And but yeah, that was such a great scene, and yeah, what a great movie.
Oh, and I'm so proud to say I did my own stunts.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
I know. So that's, for an actor, usually that's like on a bucket list. It's like, check, did your own stunts.
Yeah. So cool. All right, so for this movie,
Mm.
one thing I'm going to ask right off the bat, because it is the question that everyone is always wondering on which side of the fence you sit. So I'm going to
Oh,
ask
I know
you,
the question. I know it.
running or walking zombies, which one do you prefer?
This is so tough because I feel like both are frightening, absolutely terrifying in different ways.
Mhm.
Like the running zombies, the sprinters, such
Yeah,
as in Dawn of the Dead or like 28 Days Later. It's so scary because they have so much like rage or gusto. It's all primal,
yeah.
right? And so I'm not that fast of a runner. So I think to myself, like, oh God, like I'm kind of fucked if like these guys come after me.
That's what I always think. I'm like, I would be like, especially in this movie, I was like, man, I would just because I think that one thing that really scares me about this movie is the impeding doom of it just being right outside the mall. You know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah.
right outside, and there's just more coming and more coming, and that just really scared me. And yeah, I love it. This is a horror movie, but zombie movies I feel kind of stand out as different because they can just be more action based. This one had the perfect balance of so much that it's so much talent to come into like one, a directorial debut because it was a fast zombie movie, which pivots right away from other zombie movies. It
Mhm.
was dark, very, very dark and violent. And then there's comedic elements to it. And there's just so much brought into these characters that are strangers. I thought they just did so much well in this movie.
Well, they did. It was like a beautiful homage to the original while doing its own thing.
Absolutely.
And that's to me, if you're going to remake something, do something different,
Yeah.
right? And otherwise, why are you doing the remake? Right? If
Right.
you don't have something new to say, then you're just doing a carbon copy.
Exactly. And I think that,
Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. For instance, like they redid Psycho. Do you remember this? It was like in the
So Vince Vaughn
2000.
Psycho?
Yes.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
like shot for shot, the
Yeah.
exact same, but color.
Yeah, that is really weird. The only time I've actually seen one shot for shot remake that worked out, and it only counted because the same director did it, and that was Funny Games. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but he did an
Oh,
actual shot for shot remake, I think a decade after the first one. And it was like, just switch the actors. Every single line, every single piece of dialogue is shot for shot. That's the only way you can do it is if you're the same director as the first one. Because that's
wow.
the only way you can cheat it. And that's like a one-time thing. But like Psycho and all the other remakes, I think they fall flat from exactly what you're saying, is that they're trying too much to be like the original. And this Dawn of the Dead really stood out because it was fast, it was visceral, and yeah, it's just haunting. That opening
Mhm.
scene, Jesus.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And it just like the opening sequence and the ending credits is they're just so telling of the journey you're gonna be on.
Oh, absolutely. And
Oh,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
oh my gosh, I got so excited. So in I just found out that the opening credits and the end credits with the names, that was made with real blood. That was a practical effect.
I saw that. That is so insane. That's such a like cool stylized thing that like you don't know unless you know. And it's so like when you look back and I'm like, oh, that's so cool.
It's so crazy. I was like, wow, that's like next level stuff. That's
Oh,
incredible.
absolutely. One thing that this movie, Dawn of the Dead, as well as Watchmen, have in common is an awesome soundtrack, and a lot of Zach's choice of songs in it are usually seem odd, but they're just so perfectly fitting. I find.
Yeah, and he actually, I pretty sure he is the one who chooses the music.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
did too.
And I've also heard that usually the producers don't like it. Like the
Yeah.
production companies kind of want to fight back. But I feel like his artistic choices really pay off. Like I think like audiences members get it.
Oh yeah, especially in this one, that opening with Johnny Cash was like it's one of the greatest. Like it's weird to tie it with the Watchmen, like the Watchmen with Bob Dylan. Like those two songs, right,
Mm-hmm.
are just so cool to kind of show you the world they're in. I'm like, I don't know. I think those are two of the coolest things I've ever seen. I love those songs, both the song choices.
Yep, I agree.
And he also did
Definitely
the
agree.
Down with the Sickness cover. I think I was
Yeah, that was so awesome.
so awesome, so funny, so weird.
I know. Oh my god. And like you know what? So this time because I've seen this movie a few times, but in this viewing, I definitely like focus on the mall music
Yeah.
And like the first song when they first come running in is "Don't Worry, Be Happy."
Yeah. Yeah. So like haunting in the background. Oh, it's funny. Like that's like one thing I like, not to like talk too much about the podcast in itself while on the podcast. But one thing I do like about having the show is just getting to revisit horror movies in a different kind of site. And like when I got to rewatch this one, yeah, the music choices and a lot of the style choices, like, oh man, I really appreciated this movie this time around even more. And I think during pandemic, it also really plays into it as well. Zombie movies.
Oh, 100%. No, I totally agree. And also the idea of, these zombies coming back because it's like muscle memory, it's like, oh, their memories are leading them back to the mall because it's what they know what to do.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh, what would my memory be now? Like in a pandemic, it would be like chilling on the couch, like, playing video games. Like,
we now have like the lamest zombie apocalypse because everyone would just be sitting at home.
Exactly.
No zombies on the street whatsoever.
Everyone would be so safe. Like,
it's be the best time to have a zombie apocalypse. We'd all just the survivors could just walk the streets all they wanted.
You're like, But you see in the windows, like, like, oh, look.
Yeah.
They're infected.
Who is your favorite character in the movie? I'm kind of dropping you on the spot in here. Did you have a favorite character?
Oh, yeah. I really, this is okay. Yeah, you did. You dropped me in, man.
I know. I just kind of popped in here. I just dropped you on the spot. I apologize.
I think everyone had such great moments, just like in real life, right? Like not everyone's brilliant at all times. Not everyone is. I will say I really liked, I can't remember his character name. Mekhi Phifer's character.
Yeah.
I loved his journey into like, he spiraled into madness because he believed that like birthing this child and taking care of this child was going to clear all of his sins. That was his new purpose in life.
Yeah.
And then to see the love of his life slowly deteriorate and turn into this creature drove him mad. And at the end, all he could do was just still like protect this child. And I just loved it. I thought that was really justified.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like this time around, he was like one of my favorite characters too, and I didn't really catch a lot of them. Like, I didn't catch his drift into madness before. I don't know how, but like I didn't really catch like until like this time around when I saw his like last scene when he's holding baby when the I can't remember the other lady's name who pulls out the gun on him. I didn't really catch that like his little switch off in his brain there where he's just like, you're trying to shoot my child like that. I didn't really catch it till this time around. I was like, oh, I really appreciated that as well. Yeah,
it's like he went into like primal instincts too, but he wasn't infected, but he was doing, it was beautiful. And I think that's beautiful, haunting in a very dark way. And I think that's why, like you were saying, like these characters stand out so much to us because everything is so justified by the character. Like when the young girl, remember, she loses her dad because he got bit, and then she goes after the dog because it's like her last family member.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, he said she already lost 2 of her brothers. I'm the only guy left. But they're like, dude, you're going to turn, sorry. And so she had this dog that she grew attached to. And there was no words about it. They just had shots of her over time playing with the dog, petting the dog,
Yeah.
And then she just flips out. And you would.
Absolutely. And the interesting thing about like you said, there's no words about it, is that throughout this movie, there's a lot of stuff just built just with like really quick scenes, but you understand it now. Like if you're kind of stuck inside of like a place with people, the attachments you grow to certain things, for instance, a dog in her example, or just like each other, right? Like different groups of friendships started to pan off and relationships started to, and they were only trapped in there for a short period of time, but you could see it building and you can understand it.
And I just love how complicated CJ was.
Yeah.
It could have been so easy to have him as, like this racist redneck security guard, but he was so complicated. And I really loved that.
Yeah, he had a great journey too. There was no characters I didn't love, like good or bad. There was like no characters I didn't love. One that really stands out now looking back, because it's funny how his career went. I think it's Ty Burnell, the guy from Modern Family.
Oh, yes. Oh,
what a switch from his character. So I love looking back.
What a dick. I love it.
Kelsey. It's funny too, because I remember when he was Modern Family first came out, all I could think about was this movie. I was like, the guy from Dawn of the Dead, he's the dad of this. He's like the dad. He was such a bad guy. Like I always thought that. I feel like it took years for I was like, oh right, yeah, now he's a Modern Family guy. He's not.
It's amazing. Yeah, he really makes the juxtaposition like really well. Like from the moment you meet him, he's such a self-absorbed asshole. So at the end, when he doesn't guard the door like they ask and they get infiltrated, you're like, of course he would.
Yeah.
Like,
stay true to his character the whole time.
Yeah, he was constant. Yeah.
Even like when they were actually building the survival, like this is the stuff to survive it. He still didn't work. I'm like, he's like, yeah, I don't work with I don't work with the crew. I'm like, you should be. It's the end of the world. There's no hierarchy.
He's like, yeah, I'm going to be selfish.
Yeah.
Come on. That's my MO. Oh, and I just love that Michael, takes on the role of leadership and they're like, well, what did you do? And he's like, I sold television.
Yeah. Best Buy. I love that. I love that. Yeah, that's one of those things of surviving, right? Like he just knew what to do, even though he was just not to take shots at people that work at Best Buy. Well, I'm not, but he was a guy that worked at Best Buy, but he had the greatest ideas on how to survive out of everyone else somehow.
Yeah, it just highlights it's like your job in that past world does not define you.
Absolutely. And Ving Rhames too, as the cop, and him just having that. The first part of his arc I found was to find his family member, find his brother. Mm-hmm. And then when he switched over to be, hey, we need you here, he really stuck up to that role, which was really interesting for him to be the law enforcement who would usually be in that situation. But it seemed like the second the world went to hell, he was just like, yeah, I'm going to go save my brother. That was my idea. And then when that no longer became a thing, he kind of went back to his protecting police officer role.
Yeah. And like, I loved his relationship with Andy.
Yeah.
The gun shop owner. Like, what a great addition.
Yeah, that's such a really cool thing that they didn't even say like lines of dialogue to each other until like near Andy's like death, which was like really, really cool way to do it.
Yeah, it was just you would find ways to have relationships with people.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting you bring that up because his closest relationship was someone that wasn't even in the same building. Everyone else's was like with sort of building up friendships and like relationships with people inside the mall. His was the only one that wasn't.
Yeah. Oh, and then you get to know them through their relationship. Oh my gosh. Remember when they were doing that shooting game, like the celebrity zombies? Oh my gosh.
What a weird twisted thing to put in there. I love that scene.
But you would try to make games out of it because you're like, what are you going to do?
Yeah. And you notice that one of the only characters that wasn't like participating in like the bond and in the social aspect was Kai Pfeiffer's character. And you can kind of see like his focus just being on his wife the entire time. And with that, his slip madness seemed more justifiable because he'd kind of separated himself from the world that entire time.
Yeah. And I just love how strong Anna was the entire film. Like she was always, because she's a nurse. Mm-hmm. And so she was always, what's the word? Like she always had answers. She, in the way, like she was like, we shouldn't do that, or that's not right. Always stood up for herself and like what she believed in. It wasn't like an arc she had to learn like from the very beginning. Yeah. She was like, we can't do this. That's wrong. What's wrong with you? No, we need to, she always had the humanity side while retaining strength.
Yeah, and she was a very fearless character. And one of the scenes that I appreciated a lot more this time around was she'd just gone to the mall and she was getting the gauze and the stitches for Ving Rhames' character. And she just took that moment to cry, but she didn't want to let them see her like have that weakness because she didn't want to give. I love that scene. I appreciate it a lot more this time around. I guess looking back, I don't think it really stuck out to me, but now it definitely stuck out to me as like a really pivotal moment to her character throughout the whole movie, really.
Yeah, like think about it. Like her, I don't know if it was her husband or her partner, but like he got turned in front of her and tried to kill her. And then she was on an adrenaline run. She was like driving in her car, got carjacked.
Yeah.
Crashed. And then Ving Rhames is pointing a shotgun at her and she's like, oh, right. It was probably her first moment to herself. And wow. Yeah, it really hit me too.
Yeah. It was, yeah, exactly. It was the first one for herself. And really, she had one of the coolest character intros I've seen in a movie, like horror otherwise. That 10-minute opening stretch for her, like, was one of the coolest character intros. You learn everything. You find out she's a good nurse. She's
Yep.
also like taking time off for like, or working extra shifts for someone else. So she's good within that community. She stayed an hour late. And then on top of
Yeah.
that, like, she was friends with people in her neighborhood. Everyone seemed to kind of know her. And then she gets thrown into this and we just see her old life just disappear in an instant, really. And I thought it was such a cool character intro that tells us so much about a character in like
And that
a couple pages.
stunt, yes. And that stunt when she falls into the bathtub, I yell every time I see it
God,
because it
yeah.
looks so painful. It's like, oh.
Oh, yeah, that looks like, yeah, it's one of those things, right? Every time I look back at that, I'm like, oh, just the way her head hits it and just
Oh, yeah.
the bar coming down from the shower curtain, like that swinging down.
Come on, we've all slipped in a bathtub once, right? And you know
Yeah,
how fucking painful it is? Imagine that. You're like, oh.
absolutely. And just her like still being really concerned about her husband, because she doesn't know what's going on, and she like really concerned about her husband, and then his head just smashing through the door there. Just
Yeah. It's like she realizes it's like, okay, you're lost, but it's upsetting. It's so, yeah, wow. And like also too, it's you know, you see her husband too, when he sees the girl, he just like rushes to her to help her. It's so sad. Like, and then she just bites his jugular.
oh yeah, that's
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
So it's so sad, and oh yeah, when she bites his jugular and you just see the skin ripping. What a such a dark, visceral thing of how they did it. It was funny. I was talking to my dad recently about like zombie movies. We were talking about like fast running zombie movies, and he brought up World War Z, which I do like, but I'm like, I like Dawn of the Dead more because it's an R-rated zombie movie, and World War Z there was no blood in it. And I think like
Yeah.
you can still have a great story with that, which it was a great story, but just how scary I thought Dawn of the Dead ended up being because of how the gore that was put in it, that wasn't gratuitous in my opinion, even though it's like a lot, but at the same time, it was just all so well placed. Like that biting on the neck is so gross. It's so haunting.
Well, it made them so animalistic,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it really worked with the fact that they were sprinters because they're just running on instincts, and that's why. And like, it was really cool actually. My husband's a big zombie fan. And so he sent me this link he found. I'll send it to you. And what they do is they break down different zombie movies and like in a medical way, like what kind of infection it would be.
Oh wow.
So for Dawn of the Dead, they were saying that it biologically operates like meningitis.
Okay.
So any bite that's closer to the brain, such as if you hit an artery and the blood flow comes to the brain, it acts more, it is more rapid, right? So any sort of bite, like, you know, I'm always about the rules of the universe, right? In horror films, like what kind of rules have you established? So the rules here are the zombie sprint. And yeah, any bite that hits an artery that's closer where the blood travels faster to the brain, you will change.
Oh wow. Yeah. And looking back at that, you can definitely see that from like people that got bitten on their arm versus
Took
the people that got,
longer.
yeah, to people bitten like on their neck and such.
Where it was like instant, right? And
Yeah.
then they were saying too that it's like your body's having an allergic reaction, like you kind of swell up for the ones that are faster. And that's why there's blood in their mouths, because the capillaries have been broken, the blood capillaries.
Oh wow. Yeah,
And I was
definitely
like,
send me this
whoa,
link. I'll put that in the show notes. That sounds crazy.
I know. And that's kind of cool to be like, oh, you guys really thought about like the biological aspects of this, right?
Absolutely.
And then they
Jeez.
said that's why they think that the dog wasn't attacked, just because the eyes cloud over, which is like an allergic reaction. So they can't see well.
Oh wow. Oh, I really
Yeah.
like that theory. And yeah.
I know,
Wow.
isn't that crazy?
That makes me want to like rewatch the movie. Like I like, watch this and rewatch the movie. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's in depth. It's like 18 minutes, but it's really cool.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching that. So talking about Zack Snyder's other movies as well, because I do want to briefly speak a little bit more of his other movies. And we mentioned 300, which is its 14th year anniversary as of today's date. Um,
Woo!
yeah, I've just kind of noticed that like the way that he builds he kind of changed the dynamic of film in general, I think, because the way that he brought the darkness into the superhero genre, I think a lot of it came from this first Daring movie, right? Because I think that with where we were at horror in 2004, it was kind of a PG realm. And
Mm-hmm.
when this came out, it was a lot more dark. It really kind of jumped the genre up a little bit, and then it took years for it to jump back up again with remakes. And I feel like a lot of the other remakes seem like more PG-13. Really, where I was just going with this is, did you find that like, was there anything, you've been on numerous different sets, did you find anything different when you were working with him as far as his vision, or did you, as opposed to working with other directors, like you said that he really studied the stuff that he goes into, but did you see that like in person when you're working with him?
Yeah, I just, like I said, like he had the answers to everything. Like he really knew the world and he was very collaborative. And I think that's what makes him really easy to work with, because he is always so engaged with the material. So if you're engaged with the material, it's almost like a shared love.
Yeah.
So there's this excitement around it. Um, yeah, I don't know how else to describe it. Different sets. Obviously, there's a difference between television and feature films. There's more time
Mhm.
for feature films, so you get to spend more time on a particular shot or a particular scene. Television is a very well-oiled machine, so I do find unless you are the guest star or the series regs on those,
Mhm.
if you're a smaller role, they will definitely be like, okay, do your role, good job, awesome. You don't get that same collaboration about your character arc or the story or like what they want out of this scene as much as a feature film.
Right.
So I think because you have more time, more budget, and more because you have more time and more budget, you get to be more creative, right? Because then you can do more takes of that scene, like, oh, I like what you did there. Let's try this or let's try that, or.
Yeah. One thing with that, what you're saying with more budget that comes into mind with this one is that, did you hear that they actually nixed the budget on this movie a little bit?
Yes, because of Uwe Boll's film
Yeah.
the year before.
Yeah.
And it did so bad. They got scared.
Can you imagine that? Like, that's funny. I was like, I wonder what how different this film would have been with more. I can't really see where more budget would have helped out in anything, because it seemed like it had the perfect amount from what I saw with this movie.
Yeah, I think either, the effects person spent money very well,
Yeah.
took like a leaf out of Tom Savini's book, making magic on a budget. And,
Yeah.
and I think it was so brilliant as well. Maybe because of that, that's why they hired amputees, right, to play a
Yes.
number of the zombies. So then you didn't have to use, CG to kind of cover that up. You just already had it.
Right, right. And I think it's just like really, especially using like practical effects, using amputees as opposed to using like a lot of CG. It just looked more raw that way. It just like looked more, it really like engaged me more that way because it looked just more real, really
I'm
realistically.
such a fan of practical effects.
Oh, me too. Me too.
And to me, it's magic.
Oh,
Like, how
absolutely.
did you do that? Right? It's a suspension of reality. And I think it adds to it. I like them. I think the ultimate for nowadays is doing a practical and then layering CG on it.
Mhm.
I think that's like next level shit.
Yeah. And I think that like, I think it's only going to get better over the years. I think we're really catching on that people seem to be like appreciate and seem to gravitate more to layering on as opposed to just doing all CGI. Unless it's like, I say this with his movie coming out, that's going to be a lot of just mainly CGI. With that said, I do feel like with films like this that are lower budget, I do appreciate the layering of the CGI and the practical effects.
Okay, you say his latest film's gonna have more CGI, but I think that's different. That's more like superpowers and things that we've
Yes.
never seen in real life, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, we've all seen blood and we've all seen cuts. So, in a way, like the human eye, we can tell if something's uncanny valley if we have a reference point.
Right.
Well, it's like, I don't know. I've never seen Wonder Woman use her whip. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. That looks
Absolutely.
dope.
Or
It's
giant
like,
aliens, right? I am so
yeah.
I am so excited for that movie. Like I am like, yeah, over the moon for that movie. 4 hours, I think it said it's gonna be.
Oh my
Um
gosh, I'm excited.
I can't wait. Just for reference, if anyone's just wondering, we're talking about the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. Yeah, 4 hours, I think it's gonna be. And honestly, I can't wait. I can't
Okay,
wait.
I have to ask you, did you watch the other one?
Yes, I did.
The theatrical release, I guess I should say. Yeah.
Yes, I did. And
Wasn't it like a Frankenstein like project where you're like, what is this?
absolutely, like everything about it broke my heart. I was like, I really hope there's like I was one of those people. I was the Snyder Cut like fan the entire time. I was like, please tell me that's gonna happen. And then when it did, when it is like coming now, I'm like, oh, thank God, because yeah, the other one just didn't feel right. Didn't feel like his style whatsoever, for a lot of the pieces. And just I'm so happy it's
Yeah.
happening.
And it was hard because like there was the shell of it and then it wasn't. And so that's why I say Frankenstein, like all these pieces stitched together did not belong.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Did you see the the full? I don't want to say full edition, the ultimate edition of Batman vs Superman, as opposed to the theatrical?
Oh no, I think I only saw the theatrical one.
Oh, I highly recommend
I
watching the ultimate.
I think so. Yeah. Whichever one you can buy streaming.
Yeah.
The one that's available on the streaming.
Yes. I recommend watching that, because that's why I got so excited for the full one, right? Sorry, for the Snyder Cut, because the full film of the ultimate edition, sorry, of Batman vs Superman is like night and day. It's like the scenes that he added in, you can really see his vision more. And yeah, it's just such a great director.
Okay, I gotta look it up. I feel like I watched the Ultimate Edition. Okay, hold on. Like how much longer is it?
I think it's 3 hours.
Okay, I saw that one.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, that's 3 hours.
It's like, okay, because I was like in it to win it. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going.
Yeah. Such a long movie,
Okay.
but so worth it.
I know people were complaining, and I was like, I think this is beautiful.
Oh, me too. Me too. Yeah, that's why I always love it. That's another thing that I see in your social media is that you'll post something about like Zack Snyder's short film a couple of years back. I can't remember its name now.
Oh, snow, steam. Is that steam, snow?
I think so.
Oh my gosh, so bad. Okay.
Well, regardless, you always seem to you post things about like Zack Snyder films, and we're like, yes. I'm like first one to like it right away. I'm like, yes,
Yes. Yes.
we're like, yeah. Someone else is loving this as much as I am.
Dude, I am so excited because of what he did with Dawn of the Dead. What's going to happen with Army of the Dead?
Oh yeah,
Right?
yeah. I really can't wait for that. Oh yeah. See, I wonder if there's. I mean, do you think there's gonna be a lot of connection, because it's supposed to be like a sequel?
Well, okay. So I heard it was originally going to be a sequel. That's why it has the same name, like way back. But I think this one is supposed to be a prequel to a new Netflix universe of Snyder zombies.
Yeah, you couldn't sell me fast enough. Like that sounds amazing.
Yeah, because I know they finished filming in the Czech Republic for the series that comes before the movie. And he's also doing an animated series to that is an offshoot of that as well. So yeah, they're creating this little universe.
Yeah, you could not sell me fast enough. I cannot wait for that. I didn't know that part, and now I'm very, very excited.
So if we could have like GIFs on podcast, this would be the take my money.
Yeah, exactly. That's all I was thinking. I'm like, yeah, I'm the future GIF right now. But yeah, take all my money for that. That's that. It's funny, like rewatching this movie, I was like, man, I have been really loving this director for a long time. Because I saw 300. I'm like, I loved all these movies. Like I really, they hold a special place in my heart for like different reasons, like different like action reasons and different like horror reasons. And you're right. Another director that's similar to me in like tone, now that he's kind of branched out, is James Wan, who did
Oh yeah.
the Aquaman movie and also like The Conjuring.
I love The Conjuring.
Me too. So good.
That came out of nowhere.
Absolutely. That's another thing of like that being like a darker kind of like, I just love when they just go like, I feel like the genre itself is like, can be filled with like a lot of PG things to just sell. And then we get these mavericks, to use like a looser term, of directors that just choose to just go a different way and make it like absolutely more scary and like more for fans. And I love that.
Yeah, I honestly, like, the second one freaks me out so much with that nun painting.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I couldn't look at it. I was like, no. Like, and here's the thing: the painting's like not that scary, but it's the feeling and the atmosphere around, and that's the director, right? And the DP and everyone working together to create the atmosphere, and also Vera Farmiga is just incredible. So all of that combined, right? It's just a painting, but it was given so much life, and like I'm absolutely terrified of it. Like I can't even watch The Nun, the movie, because she's too terrifying.
That monster's got your number, right? Like, just you can't watch it.
Yeah. No. I know they're like the movie The Nun. I was like, I can't
do it. Can't do it.
Did
you see the Annabelle movies?
Oh, I did. Yes, I watched those. Yeah, and then they were like going back to The Nun. I was like, no, I can't. I know, and it's like the missing piece in the puzzle, and I'm like, I can't.
That's so funny. So it's like, is there any other, like, now I'm just going to have to ask, is there any other like monsters that just really stand out to you that are scary? Is it just the Nun, or?
I don't know. I'm also freaked out about clowns. So like Tim Curry's rendition of It in the 90s, just, my parents told me not to watch it. And they sent me to bed, and then I snuck back and was watching it. I know this is all my fault. I snuck back down into the living room behind the couch. And so we had this glass cabinet, and I watched the movie's reflection through the glass cabinet behind the couch. So my parents didn't know I was awake and watching. And I was like gasping and like making all these noises, like with the shirt of my pajamas in my mouth.
So did they like still not know? Like, did they not know at the time, even though you were gasping, or did they?
No, they had no idea. The volume was on. It was loud. They were gasping. It's like.
That's so funny. That's such a classic like horror child story of like, yeah, no wonder you're traumatized from it though.
Oh yeah, Tim Curry did a great job. Thanks, Tim Curry.
Yeah. So since then, you haven't seen any of the It movies or anything?
No, I did. I tried to conquer my fears.
How'd that go?
Did not work. Oh. Still very much terrified. Oh, he's so good.
That's so funny. Yeah, clowns, it's one of those things too. And like, I feel like they kind of know that clowns are scary, and they're like, just like, we'll put them in like random things, like in Zombieland, for instance, like clowns, there was like clown zombies in that. Like, I feel like they're just like inserted into things now because it's just,
because they know.
Absolutely. There's like certain things that like as a horror writer that I promised myself I'd never write into movies. One is trypophobia. Do you know trypophobia? The fear of the small black holes. It's a very interesting phobia.
Oh, wow.
A bunch of people have it. Like my wife's has it. My two cousins have it. And it's one of those things, you either have it or you don't have it. And it's apparently it triggers your brain more so like a disgust than a phobia. Somebody that is scientific is definitely going to comment on this and tell me I'm wrong, but I'm just going to go with what I think I know.
Oh, you're right. Okay, someone did a test on me. So they pulled it up on their computer and they turned it around, and I freaked out.
Oh, so you have, you're
Interesting. It's like but I don't think it's like the repetition of the dots that freak me out.
Yeah. And I heard that it's from evolution. So that apparently from when we were, this is what I've heard a theory is that from back in the day when we were in like, we're cavemen or whatever, and we saw like nests of like whatever, bees nests or anything, things always came out of that were harmful to humans. And that's like one of those things that triggers your brain. That's what I heard, but I don't know how true that is.
It's too unified. I don't like it.
Yeah, it is scary. And it's one of those things now that like, I feel bad when I see it on movie posters, or if I see it like, because I'm like, that's cheating. Like if I see it on a movie poster, I feel bad for someone that's just going to scroll and see that. And American Horror Story did it for a while. I was like, oh, that's really not fair. Like someone could just see that and like
freak out.
Yeah, freak out. And I don't think that's fair.
I don't think I have it super bad. It has to be very uniform, and that's the only thing. Like, okay. I think if it's a pattern on top of words and other things happening, I think I'm okay.
Right.
But if it's like, 'cause this person like full screened, just a bunch of unified bumps all together, and it freaked me out.
Yeah,
and you're right,
it.
it's disgust. You feel like I'm you can't see, but I'm like
Repulsed.
I'm repulsed, and I'm touching my arms right now, like rubbing them like as if they're dirty, like I need to take a shower.
Yeah, so it triggers apparently triggers differently than like regular phobias. Like I'm trying to think of what,
which are more fear-based.
Yeah.
Right, like arachnophobia is it's definitely fearful.
Yeah.
Spiders are scary though. They're scary.
Yeah, I own 3 tarantulas, and even I fully understand it. Like I fully get it.
Wow. So I had to I was on set one day, and there was a spider, and it was a tarantula, because they're nice and big, and apparently they're like the best behaved and most trainable of the spiders.
Yeah.
And they had, even though it was just one scene, this is in the Narcoleap series, they had like the spider wrangler had like 5 or 6 tarantulas.
Oh, wow.
Because depending on when they needed to film that shot, it depended on which spider was feeling good.
Wow. I didn't really think they'd bring that many tarantulas. That's very interesting. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. For instance, he'd kind of like touch one and be like, oh, Betty doesn't want to do it now. Put her back. It's like, oh my God. They have such personalities.
Interesting. What do the tarantulas look like? I can probably tell you what type of tarantulas they are. Or did they tell you what type of tarantulas they were?
Oh, I can't remember. I think I was just so focused on like not being scared.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, they were beautiful from afar. They looked very happy, very well taken care of, and the wrangler was really sweet. Like, do you want a pet? Do you want a pet? So he was taking them around, and
that's so funny. Yeah. It's funny because in movies, and you'll notice this now when you look back at it, they usually use Mexican red knees. It's like one type of tarantula with like red legs, just because they're like really docile type of tarantula. But on top of that, they're just like really friendly. They're like very good to use, and they're red, right? So it kind of like puts that thing in your brain to kind of make you scared.
Right, danger, yeah.
Yeah, right away. And then on top of that, for other movies, when they use scorpions, they use these ones called emperor scorpions, or black bigger scorpions, just because of their size, and they're like not as venomous.
Wow.
A little nerd knowledge there. We've kind of gotten off topic, but yeah.
Spiders.
We're just going to talk about this is a tarantula podcast now. So
it's still in the horror realm.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to think of anything else we haven't covered about this movie so far. I think we've covered everything about it. Yeah. Is there anything?
Yes, I want to circle back because I don't think I finished my Shamblers versus Sprinters.
Oh, please do. Yes.
Okay, so I told everyone why Sprinters are scary because they're so freaking fast. But I think Shamblers are scary because when they do get you, God, they're going to eat you slow.
Yeah.
And you're going to have this slow, painful death where, you have all the time to feel everything.
And it always feels like there's more of them when they're Shamblers. Like I always feel like that's the case when they're Shamblers. Except for in this movie, there was a lot of them like hoarded together, but usually it feels like there's a lot more of them when they're Shamblers because they've all, I guess, like
grouped together. Yeah,
and that's another thing. Or
they're eating you so slow, the other ones can catch up and join.
Yeah, and they always seem to like be ninjas in the sense that like they're very quiet. Like it's weird. They seem like to be like loud and groaning every other time. And then when they grab someone, they're always like dead silent. And then that's when you get grabbed.
Yeah, they're smart in that way.
So zombie apocalypse situation, what would you rather be? Here's a question actually on a running one. Zombie apocalypse situation, would you rather be stuck in the mall in the Zack Snyder movie, Dawn of the Dead? Or would you rather be stuck in the castle in the movie 28 Days Later?
Ooh. I think I would choose them all. I would.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think something about a castle freaks me out because things start looking the same and like orientation would be a lot harder. So if you needed to get away and it's not guaranteed to have like amenities. Yeah. Like I kind of want that coffee shop called Hallowed Grounds. A, it's dope. And B, it's like a dope name. And B, I need my coffee if I'm going to run away from some sprinters.
Yeah, it seemed like a better, even though like the castle had like the army and everything defending it in that movie, like it just felt like safer in the mall for some reason. I was like, it feels like a lot safer in a mall with like shatterproof glass. I felt like there, and even though there's like no soldiers there, but it just seems like, yeah, I would choose mall too.
And also two more found objects to defeat the zombies with, right? It's like, oh, hangers, you grab tables, chairs, anything. Well, it's like in a castle, there's less. So if they get in, you're like, oh God, I'm just running now.
Oh yeah. And it feels like once they get past that first wall of security, like,
oh yeah,
which is like a safety blanket in your head. And I feel like they got around that and they can get in. Then you're just like, there's nothing you can do. You're hooped. And it's like, it's a castle. Falling down, anything in there is unforgiving because it's just stone. So you can't trip.
Oh yeah. If you trip, you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also it's cold. I hate being cold.
I was going to say that too. Yeah. It's cold. It's like in England. I think this is in Minnesota where this movie took place. I think that's where it takes place. I only say that because I remember a sticker on the bus that said, I think Minnesota. And I was like, I thought that was a really funny ad because it was like the zombies were attacking someone in the back of the bus. And there's a huge sticker ad that said like wherever transit. And I'm like, that seems like an unfortunate ad to be there. Which is funny because Starbucks apparently said they didn't want anything to do with this movie. Well, they didn't want to be part of this movie because.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I read that on IMDb that Starbucks didn't want to be involved with this movie.
Well, that's fine. We had Hallowed Grounds instead.
Which was better.
Which was better. But that's crazy. I guess, with certain brands, they don't know how, they got to protect whatever their image is, right? Their associations.
Oh, yeah. And it was at the time, it was like a relatively no-name director shooting a zombie movie. Who knows what you'll do to a Starbucks company? They're like somebody get killed in a Starbucks and then forever. That's what you're known for.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, that big old zombie death in our store. Okay.
Yeah, that's like forever. And then that'll be the image that's like, travels around forever with Starbucks.
I mean, I would still order Starbucks.
I would order it more.
Yeah.
Like I would. Yeah. I'm a horror fan. I think that's a great ad for Starbucks. I don't know why they didn't say no.
Okay, Starbucks, you hear this?
Yeah. All right. So before I let you go here, is there anything else you want to plug or anywhere else we can find you or anything else that you want to plug in reference to yourself?
I guess you can find me on the Instagram.
Ooh, yeah.
My handle is at Nintendo. Like it's like Nintendo, but with my first name, NHI.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Most people are always like, oh, or they're like super rad name.
Oh, I love it. I love that. I love that as your handle. It's such a cool one.
Yeah. I'm rarely on Twitter, but yeah, Instagram is the place to find me. I'm a pretty visual person. So yeah, I tend to post updates when I can. And yeah, I'm really bad at like talking about myself, man. I'm like, yeah, so that's where I am.
Well, to find me, find her on Instagram. She's always got another project going on, which is always fun to see. And it's been a pleasure always following you on there to see what you're going to be in next. And Nhi, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'll put your Instagram in the show notes for everyone to follow you.
Sweet.
All right. Well,
so happy to be here. And I hope we have turned a couple of you fans into like super horror fans.
I don't see how they couldn't be after hearing this. So thank you so much, Nhi.
Awesome.
All right. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.